last video, we discussed the designer interview and what that looks like. Today, we're going to talk a bit more with Amanda from Housewarming about the design process and all the details that go into it. As mentioned before, the design process can be broken down into 6 key phases: the designer interview, schematic design, design development, construction drawings, project management, and installation. Amanda, can you give us a brief recap of the designer interview?
The designer interview is really the most straightforward part of the process, and we talked a lot about that in our last video. Quick recap of that really is just deciding if we are a good fit, evaluating your project, and putting numbers to the design portion of the project. And one thing to note about that is that the cost for design services is outside of the cost of the actual project itself.
Up next is the schematic design phase. Can you tell us what this looks like?
Schematic design is my favorite part of the process. I really enjoy being able to transform a space and really make it function for you and your needs. I am a firm believer in form follows function. I think that a beautiful space is great, but what's the point if it doesn't work for you? So I really like to focus in on that key space and piece of the puzzle during this time, and really develop a true functional space for you before we even take a look at any of the beauty aspects. This is also a really great time for you to start looking at your inspiration, whether it be on Houzz or on Pinterest or any other form, just really starting to collect images and really developing your style for your space, what you want it to feel like and what you want it to look like.
So, what comes after schematic design?
So the next step of the process is the design development phase. And I frequently say that this is what is the fun part for my clients. This is where we start looking at the aesthetics and the pretty part of the project. This is a part where, as I mentioned before, inspiration is crucial. You need to have a design direction so that we can fully develop and make the most use of our time and our design skills. So the other aspect of this is not just aesthetic. We also look a little bit at the functionality in a deeper level. This is where we are deciding what the insides of your cabinet look like, the exact scale and width of each of those pieces, and really just how it's going to function on a deep level. So aesthetics are really important to the end result, but again, I want to emphasize that the function always comes first. So we always want to make sure that we have all of those nitty-gritty details before we really worry too much about the final product. My clients often want to delve immediately into the finishes and fixtures, but I always have to put a pause on that and bring it back to the function. But ultimately, it is going to be about the finishes and the fixtures. And what that ends up looking like is everything from flooring and flooring transitions to your tile and your grout colors, paint colors, and I could just go on and on. It's every little detail of your project. And we make sure that you have absolutely everything dialed in and picked out so that when we send this project off to be bid, you have an exact pricing point to look at. During the design development phase, this is where we see the most time lost. This is the time where clients find it the hardest to make decisions. There are thousands of options out there, and this is really why a designer is so crucial to this process. Is we can help you narrow down and navigate those showrooms and really be able to develop a true palette and just limit your options so that you don't have to walk in and make a decision based on thousands of different options that are in any given showroom. And the final thing I want to say about the design development process is that once you make a decision, stop looking. I know it can be really easy for you to want to start looking on Pinterest and keep looking for the best option out there. But once you make a decision, as long as you love it, you really should stop looking, because it's always greener on the other side. And it's just going to prolong everything or cause change orders. And we want to make sure that every step of this process is smooth and seamless for you. So once you make that choice, stick with it and love it.
What is your favorite selection to help clients source?
That's a good question. There really isn't anything I don't like sourcing, although I will say toilets are probably the least fun. But I really, really love selecting tile. I think just because there are so many vast different options, and you can get really creative depending on what look your client is going for. So I would say definitely tile in any installation process.
The construction drawing phase is definitely the most concentrated work. Can you tell us a little bit about how you create these drawings?
So the construction drawing phase is the phase where you're going to see and hear from me the least. I am going to be very deep into CAD, which stands for computer aided drafting. There's a lot of back end work involved as well, not just me being buried in CAD, but also talking a lot with the builders and the permitting office together so that we have every detail buttoned up. The goal of this is to ensure that we have every detail written down on paper, everything from the electrical plan to how the walls are being built, all buttoned up so that by the time we are ready to break ground on your project, there's not a single question that's left unanswered.
In terms of project management, I know that this can look really different depending on who you're working with. Can you tell us a bit about these differences?
This really depends on what contractor I'm working with, whether I'm contracted with them or the client. When I work with Better Builders, I am contracted directly with them. And this works really well because they are along for every step of the process. They are just as invested as I am in your project coming to fruition and ensuring that the budget and the drawings all align with what you've already established as your end budget goal. When it comes to the actual project management in this case, my role is really supporting management. What I'm doing is making sure that there are no questions, or if they're on site and they can't get a hold of the client, I'm there to answer questions because I already have all the knowledge base that's ready to go. I'll do a couple of site walkthroughs during construction, but I'm not nearly as hands-on as if I was directly working with the client. When I'm not contracted directly with the contractor, it means that I'm directly contracted with the client. It really works similarly to how I work with the contractor, but I'm a lot more hands-on. I'm at a lot more of the contractor meetings. I'm at a lot more of the walkthroughs because the contractor wasn't there from the get-go, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but in order to balance the need for perfection in the end, to make sure that we don't miss anything in the process, I just need to be a little bit more involved. Depending on the client, I can sometimes also act as a go-to. So there are some clients who really just want to be 100% hands-off. And so if I have a client like that and we've gone through and buttoned up every little aspect, I can make final decisions for them if something crops up. Obviously, if it's a large dollar item, for instance, if you opened a wall up and discovered that, oh no, that plumbing stack was not supposed to be there, that's something that I would definitely call about. But for minor changes, having to move a wall a couple inches, that sort of thing that you just can't be, bothered with because your life is just a little bit too busy, I'm absolutely able to manage all of that for you as well. This is also a really great time to decide if you want to keep your existing furniture or if you want to start fresh. This is the time to start ordering those pieces of furniture. You want to make sure that you always stick with places that are either okay with hanging on to it for a little while or setting up with me a holding facility so that when we are ready to move back in, we can have that all delivered all at once.
And last but not least, the step that always seems to be the most exciting, final installation. What does this look like as the designer of the project?
So I think this is the most exciting part, as you said, because we really get to see the final reveal and really see all the hard work that went into this most likely stunning project. If we had decided that you were going to start fresh with new furniture, we would coordinate the delivery of all of your new items. Or if you had put all of your items into storage, we would help coordinate that delivery as well. And we would also help with the setup. So we would come in with all of your pieces of furniture, new or old, and really set it up to make it special for you. And then the last thing that we do is we come in with our photographer. We actually have an in-house photographer, Lori Sullivan. She's fantastic. And we take pictures of your space after. So once we get the before and after pictures packaged up together, we can show the absolutely stunning transformation from before and after. And we always share those with you as well.
Thanks for joining us, and please make sure to like and subscribe. And join us next week for our video where we go over tile selections with United Tile.